Great. Well, thanks everyone. I'm glad to be here today and sorry that Title I was not able to join yesterday, but we are happy to be here today. I am Lisa Jones, the Assistant Deputy Director here at the Office of Employment and Training within the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Today, I'm going to give you an overview of the work that we do in the Office of Employment and Training. And Amy, if you want to go to the next slide, that would be great. So in the Office of Employment and Training at DCEO, we are responsible for a number of federal and state funded workforce programs. I'm going to specifically talk about Title I-B formula funds, and we'll get into the detail of what those are. And also other programs that are federally funded with our WIOA dollars, but we certainly do have other programs where we get state funding and other types of federal funds outside of the WIOA money. So next slide, please. So this is how our workforce program oversight, how the funding comes down to the state. We certainly, as part of our mission for the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, we really are driving economic growth in Illinois. We are the Title I-B provider. When we get money for WIOA or WIOA, that it comes from the Department of Labor. Then the money funds down to DCEO, and then we fund that money to the local workforce innovation area grantees, and I'll get into a little bit more of that in just a second. And then for our state funded programs, those are state general revenue funds, again comes to DCEO, and then those funds are broader. They can go to the LWIAs, but they also go to community-based organizations, education entities, and other eligible providers. And those are bid through a competitive process. So if you go to the next slide, Amy. For the workforce development system for Title I-B, we do have 10 economic development regions throughout the state. And when we talk in the state plan, we do mention the 10 economic development regions, and we do look at labor market information in the regional, local, and state planning process. And within those 10 economic development regions, we have 22 local workforce innovation board areas that have been designated by the governor. These areas are consistent with labor market and regional economic development areas. Those 22 areas receive federal funding based on a formula allocation that looks at unemployment in the areas of substantial unemployment, the number of excess unemployed individuals, and it also takes into account economically disadvantaged youth. There are 3 programs within WIOA Title I-B. It's the adults, dislocated workers, and youth programs. Services for those 3 programs are provided directly by the local workforce innovation areas, and the local areas can use a competitive process to procure youth services if they so choose to do. So next slide. For this program year funding, you can kind of see the trajectory over the last 4 years. We have the last 2 years increased our funding of allotments, as you can see. This new allocation for PY24 just came out recently, and we are working on the allocation dollars, and we did get a significant increase. And again, those numbers are based on the unemployment rate and then economically disadvantaged. So next slide. The Adult and Dislocated Worker Program overview, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the program description and the services. So adults are ages 18 and older. To be an adult, for adult services, you must be laid off or dislocated worker, could have a disability, a criminal record, or homeless, or low income, low skilled are some of the reasons for adults 18 and older to receive our services. For dislocated workers, those individuals are those that have who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own. The primary eligibility, there's 3 basic eligibility requirements, and that's to be for adults 18 years of age or older, be a citizen or a non-citizen authorized to work in the U.S., and males at birth are required to demonstrate that they have met the military selective service registration requirement. Some of the services that are offered in the one-stops are, as you can see, we do all kinds of career type services in the one-stop centers or through the local workforce innovation areas, such as career coaching, financial literacy, mentoring, interview preparation, internship opportunities, job clubs. And then we also connect individuals to work-based learning opportunities such as on-the-job training and paid work experience. So want to go to the next slide, Amy? Thank you. For the youth program, similar, that's ages 14 to 24, although we usually focus more on 16 to 24. These youth are those that face barriers to education, training, and employment. There are 14 elements that are required to be offered for youth programs through WIOA, and these are the types of services that would be delivered through those 14 elements. And again, it's work experience as it is with adults and dislocated workers. There's internships and job shadowing, support services, mentoring, financial literacy, and I don't need to read the slide deck. You can read that for yourself. When determining whether youth are eligible to participate, there's multiple factors that are involved, including age, school status, barriers to employment, to be an out-of-school youth, and there is a distinction right now between in-school and out-of-school youth for the purposes of WIOA. An out-of-school youth is someone that does not attend school and is aged 16 to 24 and would have one or more barriers to employment. Those types of challenges include being a high school dropout, being pregnant or parenting, a homeless individual, or a youth in foster care who's aged out of the foster care system. And then in-school youth are those that are attending school ages 14 to 21. So next slide, please. Thank you. For purposes of performance, there are 6 primary indicators of performance, and those are the same. There's a little bit of distinction within the indicators, but there are 6 primary indicators of performance for all 3 programs. As you can see, it's the employment rate second quarter after exit. And for youth, though, it would be education or employment for youth. Employment rate fourth quarter after exit, again, education is included for youth. Median earnings in the second quarter after exit, credential attainment, measurable skills, and then effectiveness in serving employers is an additional indicator of performance. Next slide, please. The one-stop centers, I think those of you that were on the call yesterday heard a little bit about the one-stop centers from Stephanie. These are how the services, or one way rather, services are delivered by the local workforce innovation areas in Title IB. They've also, since the pandemic, have been able to deliver services virtually. The law requires right now that each local area have one comprehensive one-stop center that provides access to the services of all the required partners. And there are 16 required partners. You're as part of the micro teaches, I know you're hearing about the 4 primary partners. Local areas can also choose to have affiliate one-stop centers. And in those affiliates, those can be a range of partners, and those can be customized to the needs of that local area. One-stop centers are to be certified every 3 years. This is one of the responsibilities of the board, is to establish that criteria. Right now, the one-stop center, the LWIAs are working on one-stop certification. Also, and finally, rather, one-stop operators are selected through a competitive process. Next slide. So for the time periods 2020 to 2023, we're showing here what our enrollment has been. As you can see, for this last reporting year, for youth, we served over 6,165. For adults, we enrolled, and these are ones that are actually enrolled in the program. This does not include those participants that we served through like the resource room or provided, self-service services to. These are just those that met the eligibility criteria and were enrolled. For adults, we did enroll 9,000 little over 9,000, and 6,000 of those were enrolled in training. And then for our dislocated workers, we had over 5,200, and then 2,800 of those were enrolled in training. So our total participants served for fiscal year 23 was 20,259. Next slide, please. In addition to the services to the job seekers, we also, the local workforce areas also do business services. And part of our role is helping them do that through funding opportunities. The local areas do recruitment and retention efforts. We provide funding through our statewide innovation money for business service strategies such as talent pipeline management. There are several business service opportunities or programs that we do. Sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought. To upskill incumbent workers, and then coordinating federal, state, and local resources as well as part of our serving businesses. Next slide, please. The next few slides I'm going to go through are just those that are specifically we give to the LWIAs to support businesses directly. One would be the apprenticeship expansion program. We have a formula allocation for $1.3 million, and then we do issue that money directly to the LWIAs through a funding notice. We are going to be applying and just issued a notice to apply for additional formula funds for the apprenticeship expansion program. Next slide. And Amy's telling me to hurry up. So, okay. Go ahead, Amy. Next slide. Oh, sorry, rapid response. This is a big program that we do. We usually set aside $4 to $6 million. This rapid response program is part of the dislocated worker program. We have rapid response teams that go in and work with businesses to try to prevent layoffs, or if we know that there's a layoff, they can go in and say, hey, here's the types of services that we provide and that you can possibly access. So next slide, Amy. On our rapid response highlights for 2023, we had 289 workshops. We worked with 164 layoff events that impacted 22,840 workers. Next slide, Amy. Trade Adjustment Assistance Program. This is a program for workers that were laid off through no fault of their own based on foreign trade. And as you can see, we usually distribute about $4 to $6 million for the Trade Adjustment Assistance Program. Next slide. Our federal non-formula workforce grants. We just talked a little bit about the apprenticeship expansion grants. The National Dislocated Worker grants are those grants that we can access in times of, for example, a natural disaster or some other declaration of emergency event. Next slide. And then again, here's our National Dislocated Worker Program. This funding is really widespread because it really depends on the layoff situation that has occurred. So it's really a need-based program. Next slide. And then finally, our Proud Partners for Reentry Opportunities is a fairly new grant that we have that's working with the federal prison system to work on employment issues for those that are leaving federal facilities. Next slide. And then just quickly, this has happened for the first time last year, and we're very excited about it. We believe that when the budget is signed by the governor for this fiscal year, there will be another $5 million, but this is a $5 million appropriation for general revenue funds. This is very significant because Illinois has not very often, or probably the first time that I can remember anyway, that we have gotten GRF funds that go directly to the local workforce areas. And this is some of the services that we are providing with that money. Next slide. Just real quickly, these are our other state funded programs that you'll hear more about when we do strategic planning. The Job Training Economic Development Program, our clean energy programs, which are the Future Energy Jobs Act and the Climate and Equity Jobs Act programs. And then I think the next slide is my final slide. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Amy. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.